when he was born in Ballyshannon in the north of Ireland, and then his family moved to Derry. And when he was about 8 years old, he was scrolling on the radio trying to find something when his parents were out, and he hit upon a bit of Muddy Waters playing that was on American Forces Network Radio, as they had a naval base up in the north of Ireland. And he said that just hit him and changed his life. He just heard some slide guitar on a Muddy Waters track, and he had to find out more about the blues. Then the skiffle movement was happening in England, and Lonnie Donegan became a big hero, and through him he came across people like Leadbelly and Big Bill Broonzy. That sort of ignited his sort of wider interest in the blues, and he dug deeper. In Ireland, and so we're talking early 50s, there wasn't, nobody was out touring, there was no blues guys touring, there was very little in the way of music, so he'd just go to his local library. By this point he'd moved down to Cork in the south of Ireland, and he'd go to the library and he'd take out books on the blues guys, he'd try and find old vinyl, anything he could do, and he consumed as much about the blues as he could, which is kind of extraordinary for someone who's probably at this point 10 or 11, and just going after the blues and trying to find out more about it. And then as he in Ireland, there really wasn't the avenue for being in a band except for what were known as the show bands, which were for great musicians, but they just played the hits of the day and sort of recreated the sort of top 20 and played dance barns and church halls and things like that. So Rory joined one of those reluctantly at about the age of 15, got to tour, and he had this Stratocaster, and he got to play through a Vox AC30, and he would try and, once he got into a band, all the guys in the band would be older, they'd be in their 20s, and he was 15. I think he lied at first saying he was 18, just to get in so he could play guitar, and then he tried to mould the band a bit away from the standards of the day, and he'd add in some Chuck Berry, Buddy Holly and things like that, and slowly he got a bit bored of it, and got about the age of 16 he went to Hamburg for the first time and played the Star Club. He lied to the owner saying that the rest of the show band were on their way, because he turned up with just a bass player and drummer, and he kind of made a three-piece in 1965, and and just started kind of developing his own blues. I think then that into Taste, and that was sort of Taste in 1966 till 1970. Power Trio, definitely blues-based but advanced. The sort of styling of it, some from one areas of being very heavy blues and kind of leaning into sort of proto-metal in places, to other sides sort of jazz blues. He kind of was very expansive in Taste. And Taste split up in 1970, and that's when he sort of started and forged his own solo career. I think probably originally in Cork he must have felt like certainly one of the only ones. Maybe they might have bumped into someone else. I think it was when he first got up to Belfast, and there was a sort of little burgeoning blues scene with Van Morrison and the Them, and that's when he sort of went, I think Dublin and Belfast had a bit of soul. They were very much into soul music, and blues maybe on a sort of slightly lesser extent. Rory was, I think, I hope I'm not speaking out of turn, was definitely sort of the first blues guy in Ireland, like, you know, blues hit rock hero, guitar hero. But Van Morrison kind of and the Them and their sort of background in music would have given Rory like, oh, I'm not alone on this in this country. I can, you know, there are other people. And once he got up there, the bands, the first of the British invasion bands, would be playing in Belfast, and he'd get to sort of see them and quite often be the opening for them, either as the show band or as early Taste. You know, they'd be opening for Fleetwood Mac and things like that. And that's when he would get the sort of, okay, I'm not alone in loving this music. I think growing up in Ireland and being around traditional music, and he'll have heard traditional music, you know, every day in and around the pubs. He grew up above a pub, so I'm sure there was guys playing every day, some fiddle and guitar and stuff. He kind of had always been immersed in it. And then some of the early blues things that he got into, like Leadbelly, like Big Bill Broonzy, are more that kind of country, folk type of blues stuff. I mean, Leadbelly's very they're sort of mythical stories, you know, about cowboys. You know, like Rory covered, Leadbelly's Out in the Western Plain. It's this sort of story about running into, you know, the different cowboys of the era and there being big battles. So these folk stories, I think that very much Rory related them to these old Irish folk songs, and he kind of lyrically, these kind of stories would really have appealed to him. On the album, he has there's the electric side and there's his live playing, but there's the second CD, which is all acoustic. You really hear his sort of love of country and folk blues, and his excellence on the acoustic guitar and acoustic slide really shine through on that.